gehe nach Amerika. Ich werde da auch arbeiten können, denke ich. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich das Immigration nennen würde. Ich würde da erstmal sagen, ich lebe dann da lieber.
Wenn man sich mal anschaut, wie sich das Werk vom Rainer Werner entwickelt hat, Ende der 60er Jahre bis zu seinem Tod, Anfang der 80er, und wenn man schaut, welchen enormen Bogen das allein in diesen 14, 15 Jahren gemacht hat, dann kann man sich ja vorstellen, wohin das hätte führen können in den 80ern und 90ern.
He said at one point, when asked about how would he feel working in the American studio system when he was so free to work in the European system, he disagreed. He said, all I can say is I'd rather be unfree that way than imagine I was free in Germany.
Nicht, dass ich mir irgendwie vorstellen könnte, was für Filme er nun gemacht hätte. Aber das, was uns allen verloren gegangen ist mit den Filmen, die er nicht gemacht hat, das ist eigentlich noch unvorstellbarer.
Rainer Werner Fassbinder really didn't have enough time to make his vision of working in America become a reality. But there are quite a few from his group who actually did go to Hollywood. Actors like Armin Mueller-Stahl and Udo Kier, directors of photography like Michael Bauhaus and the late Dietrich Lohmann. The first one to choose Hollywood as his new home and the only one who emigrated to America while Fassbinder was still alive is Uli Lemel. You know, before making films, Fassbinder started out as a playwright and stage director. Lemel's first clue in his search for traces of Fassbinder and his influence in Hollywood led him to a place where the German director is still vividly present. It's a little theater in Santa Monica called the City Garage. The artistic director, French-born Frédéric Michel, very consciously lets Fassbinder's raw and controversial plays collide head-on with the superficiality of Hollywood. And the way the City Garage is organized is very much like Fassbinder's famous amphitheater in Munich, which revolutionized German theater at the end of the 60s.
Now sing first.
Are you all in the play that's starting on the 8th?
No.
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 But you did some Fassbinder plays?
I've done two.
Which ones?
I did Garbage, the City, and Death, and Pre-Paradise, Sorry Now.
And then you play it every night? Or?
Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for 6 weeks.
Great.
I did the spotlight.
She was in the one with me.
Those two girls here were in the Fuck Me dance that you love so much.
Yeah, of course.
I've been a big fan of his movies. And I read his plays and I always wanted to do them. But actually, I was waiting for the right time because most of the people were kind of a little scared of putting his plays on stage. I really don't understand why, but so one day I said, oh, fudge it, I will do it in any case. So I did, and I was very excited to do it.
I'd like to do Die bitteren Tränen der Petra von Kant. That would be nice.
Yeah.
I staged 3 Fassbinder plays. The first one was Blood on a Cat's Neck. Then I did Garbage, City of Death. And then I did Pre-Paradise, Sorry Now. I fell completely in love with the character of Phoebe Zeitgeist in Blood in a Cat's Neck because here this young girl who is completely innocent and go down on earth and meet men. And men are nasty, men are violent, and what she learns is awful. She doesn't learn anything good about the world. And one of the critics actually called me a male pig chauvinist. And a review was really nasty, and she said, the leading lady is completely naked from the beginning to the end of the play on high heel shoes. Meaning by that, the following weekend, we were packed. Garbage, City of Death has been forbidden, as you know, in your country. And even Heiner Müller tried to do it in a subway and has been stopped to do it. The play, to my view, was not anti-Semitic, but the opposite, because the rich Jew actually is the hero of the play. He is the good guy. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I'm completely wrong here, but my reading of that play was that Fassbinder was showing to the German people exactly the way they were. This is what we are, and we have to accept the fact that we are this kind of monster. This is us. I'm more connected to a man like Fassbinder as far as doing play, because what he's struggling with is what I struggle with as a director. And all of the question is asking about life. I suppose I'm asking the same question about life and about what is beauty and what is ugliness. To me, Fassbinder was a beautiful man. And Hollywood is not beautiful to me. Hollywood is fake.
Uli Lamel has been living in Hollywood for more than 20 years. He was born into a family of entertainers, and he was already well known in Germany when Fassbinder hired him for his first feature film, Love is Colder Than Death. Lamel went on to act in more than a dozen Fassbinder films before he became a director himself, and it was at the instigation of Fassbinder who produced his first films. Lamel just finished his 20th film in America. He too has brought a little bit of Fassbinder with him to Hollywood. He represents a trace of Fassbinder in Hollywood.
Scene 35B, and it could either start here or later, but I lost it.
Okay, we don't have a film here.
In 1968, I was shooting a musical for German television, and during the rehearsals, the guy showed up. He had just a small bit part, and he was always in a terrible mood, never said hi to anybody, and nobody liked him. And I sort of found him kind of fascinating, and every now and then we made a little bit of eye contact, but he was also pretty shy. So one day, during rehearsals, I decided, like a 10-year-old in school, to take a little piece of paper and write something down, and I threw it over to him, and he picked it up and he laughed for the first time. He looked at it and he wrote me another message and threw it back to me. I opened it up. My message had said to him, "What are you doing tonight?" What he sent me back was, "Ich gehe ins Kino. I'm going to the movies with you." So that same night we went to see a movie called Chi Sabe, Who Knows, with Gian Maria Volonté and Lou Castel, an Italian Western. And Fassbinder and I, we didn't talk much. We never talked much. But what was important, we laughed at the same moments and we cried at the same moments. And that was the beginning of our friendship. And then after the movie, he said, "Well, you know, I'm also going to be directing my first movie soon." I said, "Really?" Well, that was the time when the new German wave directors, everybody in Munich wanted to be a director. So he was just another guy who also, of course, wanted to be a director. And he said, "Yeah, plus I want to introduce you to the woman, the actress, who's going to be, I'm going to make her a big superstar." I said, "Oh, well, that's what everybody says. Yeah, everybody here in Munich who wants to make movies has a girl who's going to become the next big superstar." So I went with him to some joint that was full of smoke and beer and everything, and was very loud, and I was looking around and I didn't see anybody who looked like a movie star to me. And I said to him, "Well, where is she?" And he said, "Well, this one over there, of course." And he pointed at a waitress, and that was, of course, was Hanna Schigula.
Mir hat dann nie etwas davon erzählt, dass schon auf der Schauspielschule, wie sich ausgedrückt hat, wie in einem Flash, also wie in einer ganz plötzlichen Eingebung wusste, dass dieses Mädchen, mit dem er eigentlich sonst kaum geredet hat und schon gar nichts Persönliches, dass die später einmal der Star, wie er sich selber ausgedrückt hat, seiner Filme sein wird.
One Monday morning at 7 a.m., the phone rings. I pick up the phone, says hello, and the lady said, well, you were supposed to be at Reiner's apartment at 8:30 in an hour and a half. I said, what for breakfast? And she said, no, we're gonna make a movie. I said, a movie? What kind of movie? Oh, only Reiner knows what kind of movie. So just get over here and find out. So I went over there to see Reiner. And I was expecting a film crew or whatever. There was nothing. It was just Dietrich Lohmann, the cinematographer, with a 35mm camera. It wasn't even a BL. You couldn't even shoot original sound with it. It was this little 35 camera. Nobody else. He did everything. He did the lighting. He changed the film. It was just him. And I said, oh my God, what am I getting myself into here? And then Fassbinder said, well, and the way you look, that's not right for the role. You got to go out there and buy yourself a coat and a hat. And you have to look like Alain Delon in Le Samurai. He wanted me to go out and get this outfit. The coat, glasses, and this hat.
Ich suche so eine runde Brille, wie sie der Polizist im Psycho anhatte, ja. Also der zum Auto von Janet Leigh gekommen ist da.
Dass der Reiner gerne zitiert hat, das war sowieso etwas, was er auch gar nicht verbergen wollte. Das war so ähnlich wie bei Brecht, der immer gesagt hat, es gibt kein geistiges Eigentum.
I came back to his apartment and he said, we're ready. Stand up against the wall. Camera's rolling. After a while he says, cut, that's it. So I go to Hanna Schigula and say, Hanna, what is all this about? She said, I don't know, ask him. He's the only one who knows.
Er wusste, wie die Bilder sein sollten und er hat nicht erklärt, er hat nicht lange drumherum geredet.
Is there a script or anything? No, it's all in Reiner's head. I said, okay. And what am I playing? Well, you play the gangster, the lead.
Warum hast du das getan?
Weil du Bruno ausgelacht hast. Und Bruno ist mein Freund.
Und ich?
Du? Du liebst mich sowieso.
Zu dieser Ohrfeige hat er zu mir gesagt, du musst einfach es wollen, dann tut es überhaupt nicht weh. Denn die erste Ohrfeige hat sehr wohl sehr weh getan. Und ich war auch fast erschrocken über die Wucht. Und es war mir schon klar, dass die Wucht der Ohrfeige ein Zacken mehr war, als es vielleicht gebraucht hat.
He's very brutal, he's very often cruel, you know, and of course he has a reputation to be a monster as a director, which I kind of lack, because I do believe that to be a good director you really have to be strong and have strong ideas, and what is great about him too is that he works always with the same actors. He has this group of people with whom he works, so they know him, they know each other, and this is the best way to work with people.
Alle Filme, die wir dann gemacht haben, war es immer so, dass der Fassbinder nie was sagte, nie Regieanweisungen gab, sondern einfach eine Atmosphäre kreierte am Drehort, wo die Schauspieler, die zu ihm ein bestimmtes Verhältnis hatten, einfach genau wussten, was da gemacht werden sollte und was man lieber nicht macht. Und wenn dann mal so Stars kamen, die nie mit Fassbinder vorher gearbeitet hatten und es wagten, ihn nach einer Motivation für den Charakter zu fragen. Dann kam er zu mir und sagte, Uli, geh doch bitte zu ihr hin und erkläre ihr, dass ich über solche Dinge nicht gerne rede.
Die sogenannten Stars, weil er selber hat den Begriff ja sehr schnell eingeführt. Daran sieht man auch, dass er sehr wohl bei allem Anti doch irgendwie einen Draht zum Starsystem haben wollte, dass seine Träume doch von Hollywood auch sehr genährt waren. Und ich selber habe mich ja dann auch als Vorstadt-Merlin bezeichnet. Aber ja, in mir war das immer einerseits und andererseits. Und einerseits habe ich es genossen, dass in der Hinsicht mehr und mehr gewachsen ist. Andererseits habe ich es zum Teil auch innerlich irgendwie mich dagegen gewehrt. Genauso wichtig, um wirken zu können, ist die Bekanntheit. Und um aus sich selber etwas herausschöpfen zu können, was wirklich aus tieferen Quellen kommt, ist es doch sehr wichtig, dass es aus dem Verborgenen kommt. Mit zu der Zeit hat gehört, dass zum Beispiel Fassbinder und Uli Lommel sehr oft am Flipper standen und da gab es dann immer aus der Jukebox die Musik und ich habe dann getanzt oder so. Der Tanz war so schön, weil es auch so eine direkte Szene mit ihm, das war auch mit ihm und für ihn getanzt. Und er hatte so eine schöne, total verhaltene Art, aber wo eigentlich die ganze indirekte Liebe, die sich zwischen uns immer nur in Filmen ausdrücken konnte, ist in diesem Tanz drin. Die Art, wie er mich anguckt und auch die Art, wie ich es für ihn mache und so. Und das war auch total, also das war kein einziges Mal geprobt, das war gemacht und damit war's. Also das war sicherlich einer der glücklichsten Momente beim Drehen.
Der Rainer wollte immer auch mitspielen und das Interessante dabei war, wenn er gespielt hat, hat er nicht wie viele Schauspieler so sich selber gespielt, sondern er hat immer versucht, so unheimlich tough und amerikanisch zu sein. Und in den Filmen auch der amerikanische Soldat von ihm, wenn er diesen weißen Anzug hat, irgendwie bewegt er sich immer so wie Robert Mitchum oder Elvis Presley oder hatte immer so was Amerikanisches drauf. Ja, es ist das Verrückte dabei, dass er immer gesagt hat, ja, ich weiß nicht, ob ich in Hollywood Filme machen kann, denn meine Themen sind so deutsch. Aber wenn er dann deutsche Filme machte, waren das sehr amerikanisierte Filme.
Schmeiß die Waffe weg und Hände hoch!
Ricky!
Er hat ja Filme machen durchs Kino gehen gelernt. Er wurde doch abgelehnt. Zweimal hat er es versucht auf die Filmhochschule und wurde immer wegen Mangel an Talent abgelehnt.
Bin ich unheimlich oft ins Kino gegangen, seit ich 5 Jahre alt war. Und vielleicht das Einzige, wo man so eine Spur Spaß hatte, so als Kind, also ich zumindest. Und daher kommt das wahrscheinlich, dass ich selber auch Filme machen will.
Die typischen Gangsterfilme aus Hollywood, auch die B-Filme, die kannte ich irgendwie nicht. Die haben mich nie interessiert. Das war für mich irgendwie so Machotum, diese Filme.
Raoul Walsh, great director of many genres, was a big influence on Fassbinder. In fact, to such an extent that he names his lead character in his first film, Love is Colder Than Death, Franz Walsh, the German spelling, but obviously a homage to Raoul Walsh. He also took this name, Franz Walsh, as his pseudonym when he credited himself, Fassbinder credited himself as an editor. Again, a very personal response to this. He's very affected by White Heat, one of Walsh's films in which the mother, the evil mother character, plays a significant role. In fact, in one of the interviews I read, Fassbinder is asked the question about his relationship to mothers. Did he take that from White Heat? And Fassbinder significantly answers, no, I found my relationships to mothers while watching White Heat. Very much a mirror of Fassbinder's own psychology.
Fassbinder was also a huge fan of Raoul Walsh's Southern epic Band of Angels, and that film inspired him to do a CinemaScope Western called Whitey, which was his first overt tribute to Hollywood. Whitey was shot in Spain near the town of Almeria, which is a popular location for many spaghetti westerns. But in addition to acting in the film, Uli Lemel this time produced the film as well. The lead role was played by Günther Kaufmann.
Als es zur Besetzung von kleineren Rollen kam, wollte er unbedingt so einen Cowboy spielen.
Was will denn der Nigger hier?
Der jemanden zusammenschlägt, und er identifizierte sich mit dieser Rolle unheimlich und hat die Rolle so ernst genommen wie ein Method Actor aus Hollywood, dass er anschließend, nachdem er mit dem Drehen fertig war, wir aber noch weiter drehten andere Szenen, seine Cuba Libre Flasche genommen hat und sie in die Kamera reingeschmissen hat.
Whitey was my first movie with Fassbinder, and our relationship was a little strange in the beginning because he didn't trust me much. He thought this was this guy who did a lot of television in Germany, and he wasn't so sure. And then there was a scene that was fairly complicated. It was long, 4.5 minutes long, and it was a very complicated shot because it had to pan from one person to the other, and the timing had to be very precise because you had to be at the person when this person was speaking. And they were all standing around. So he showed me the shot, and he showed me what he wanted. The actors were there and did the scene, and he explained and said, okay.
And Fassbinder said, well, how long do you need to rehearse this? And Ballhaus said, give me 2 hours. Fassbinder said, I'll be back in 2 hours. And indeed, 2 hours later, Fassbinder returned, and Ballhaus said, I'm ready to shoot.
And then we shot it, I think 2 or 3 times.
Fassbinder came to me and said, I can't wait to see the dailies. Can't wait. This will never work, he said. 2 days later, we're watching the rushes, and Fassbinder sits there. He can't believe what he sees. Everything works out. It looks phenomenal. The lighting is great. The traveling is phenomenal.
It worked. The timing worked.
He storms out of the theater and yells, "Ole!" And I said to myself, well, maybe he hates it. Maybe he sees it all different. So I go out there and says, yes. He says, with tears in his eyes, he says, this man is a fucking genius.
Fassbinder hat den Michael Ballhaus auch sehr gefordert. Ne? Wie er gemerkt hat, er hat jetzt diesen Kameramann an der Hand, der hat ihn durch sämtliche Spiegel gejagt. Da gab es ja Einstellungen im Spiegel und noch ein Spiegel.
We loved mirrors. He did and I did. But as everybody knows, to photograph mirrors is sometimes could be a pain in the ass. It could be very difficult. And so whenever he asked me, could you do it? Could you do it? Is it okay? Then I said, yeah, it's difficult, but it's beautiful.
Schwierig, aber schön.
Also, the way he worked, all our movies were very cheap. We didn't have much money, so we had to be very fast. And he was very pushy, so he was really trying to make it work fast. And so I had to be very fast. And also, we didn't have the money to do many takes, and we never did much coverage. So he had more or less the sequence of a scene in his head. So we know exactly which images were coming together. And that was very helpful to know where these images meet. So I learned to think in terms of not single images, but a sequence of images that complete a scene.
alle deutschen Filmemacher oder vielleicht überhaupt alle Filmemacher, für die ist Hollywood so eine Art, was für die Mohammedaner Mekka ist oder so etwas. Ich glaube nicht, dass Fassbinder seine eigentliche Kraft aus dieser Quelle bezogen hat. Sicherlich war mir auch bekannt, dass er gesagt hat, ich möchte gerne Filme machen, die so wirksam sind wie die von Hollywood, aber eben nicht so verlogen. Und dass er sich da sehr an Douglas Sirk orientiert hat, der für ihn so eine Art Filmvater geworden ist, weil er ja auch nach Vaterfiguren gesucht hat. Und dieser Gentleman, dieser Exildeutsche, da hat sicherlich sehr viel mit reingespielt.
Fassbinder was really obsessed with Sirk, and it started in the late 60s, early 70s. I think in early 71, he saw 6 of Sirk's films in a retrospective in Munich, and then went to visit Sirk, and this led to him acting in a student film, in a directing course that Sirk was teaching at the Munich Film School.
Wir haben darüber gesprochen, dass wenn er nochmal einen Film macht, dass wir das irgendwie zusammen machen.
So within a very short period of time, he followed from seeing the movies to meeting the man who made the movies to working with the man or working under the man who made the movies. So this was really a strong relationship and a strong interest on the part of Fassbinder. It's fascinating, his response to the Sirk. I mean, it's so intense, so personal. And when you read the article he wrote about Sirk, what's interesting, it says as much about Fassbinder. It's written from such a subjective point of view that it's as much about Fassbinder as it is about Sirk. On the one hand, he calls them the tenderest films, the most beautiful films in the world. I mean, really, really excessive praise, desperate, sad, pessimistic on the other hand. And I think he was responding to a dualism that he personally felt in that, between the objective world where everything seemed ordered and happy and bourgeois, and the inner suffering.
Das Wichtige an Douglas Sirks Film eben ist zu lernen, dass die Gefühle jedermanns, so klein sie objektiv sein mögen, in einem Film so groß sein dürfen, wie sie nur irgend können. Das ist, glaube ich, für viele junge Leute, die Filme machen, könnte das sehr wichtig sein, meiner Ansicht nach.
And the first film he made after meeting Sirk was The Merchant of Four Seasons. He'd made half a dozen really quite low-budget films before that, many of them more genre-oriented. The Merchant of Four Seasons is really the beginning of his bourgeois period, where he looks at intense social relationships within a confined space, in this case, basically working-class family, a husband and wife.
Wer bin ich?
Hans.
Darf ich dir meinen Freund Harry vorstellen? Meine Frau.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Sind Sie der Harry aus der Legion?
Ja.
Hans hat mir sehr viel von Ihnen erzählt.
Hoffentlich was Gutes. Nur Gutes, nur. Er wird jetzt für mich arbeiten.
Oh, das freut mich aber wirklich.
Danke, vielen Dank. Wir haben diesen Monat fast 2000 Mark verdient. Alles in Ordnung.
Ich sage ja gar nichts.
Of course, his famous film in which you really see Sirk is his modern remake of All That Heaven Allows, which is Ali, Fear Eats the Soul, which he takes the basic situation of an older woman who falls in love with a younger man and then has to face the outraged society around her. As a result, she gives up the man and learns to, in many ways, regret that decision.
Obwohl ich den Douglas Sirk sehr gerne mochte, ich bin ihm ja dann später begegnet und seine Filme sicherlich sehr viel für sich haben, hat mich der Film All That Heaven Allows kaum berührt und der Film vom Fassbinder unglaublich stark berührt. Jetzt nicht, weil es der Fassbinder war, sondern weil er zwar vieles übernommen hat, aber ich finde, dass die Verbindung zwischen Jane Wyman und Rock Hudson wirklich nicht so etwas absolut Skandalöses hat, etwas, was ein Spießer nicht akzeptieren kann, wohingegen Salem und Brigitte Mira etwas ist, was man eigentlich nur lieben kann, wenn man sich ganz frei macht von allem Mobiliar, das einem die bürgerliche Erziehung eingegeben hat. Und dann aber ist es umso zärtlicher und umso menschlicher, was da passiert.
Ich habe geheiratet.
Du hast...
Mama.
Aber...
Wen? Ich meine, wen hast du geheiratet?
Komm rein. So, das ist mein Mann. El-Hedi Ben Salem Mbarek Mohammed Mustafa. Ich nenne ihn Ali. Komm. Bruno!
Das hättest du nicht tun dürfen, Mutter. Das nicht. Diese Schande, das... Jetzt musst du vergessen, dass du Kinder hast. Ich will mit einer Hure nichts mehr zu tun haben.
Rainer Werner always insisted that I think his own experiences went into these movies. And even if the models came from American cinema or from Douglas Sirk, what he put into the film was experience, was lived, and was filled with all sorts of things that he picked out of people's life here or there, that his actors, himself, his friends, but they were entrenched in life.
One day, Fassbinder and I and Kurt Raab and a bunch of other people, we were at the Frankfurt airport and about to leave for Greece for a little vacation. The plane was cancelled and Fassbinder looked at the announcements and then the next plane went to LA. So he said, let's all go to LA. I said, what? He said, yeah, let's go to LA. I said, I don't think so, Rainer. I think I'm going back to Munich. But the others went with him. It was a 12-hour flight. And during these 12 hours, he wrote a play called The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant, which also was turned immediately into a movie. And when they arrived, and everybody expected now to go to Hollywood or to go to the beach or to do the LA kind of thing, he said, no, we're going right back to Germany because I want to shoot next week The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant. And it was a very, very precise language. It was a play for stage, but he used it exactly like this to turn it into a movie. And he had a specific rhythm similar to Bert Brecht. And you could never change a word around or skip something because then the rhythm would get lost. So he had a tremendous feeling for all this.
In Deutschland, da sind die Dinge, wie sie sind, da kann man nichts machen. Erzählen Sie von sich.
Von mir? Da ist nicht viel zu erzählen.
Oh doch. Was Sie denken oder was Sie träumen?
Wenig. Ich möchte einen Platz haben auf der Welt. Ist das zu viel verlangt?
Nein, im Gegenteil, Karin. Im Gegenteil. Das ist es, wofür man lebt. Sich einen Platz zu erkämpfen.
Und muss man kämpfen?
Gewiss. Auch ich habe kämpfen müssen. Und zwar hart, sehr hart.
Fassbinder clearly had an interest in the women's picture. And you feel that in his own films. I mean, he's very attracted to the female sensibility and seeing the world through the eyes of women, either women who are being exploited or humiliated or who are the weaker party in a relationship, or in some cases they are the exploiter and the more powerful party. But one way or another, many, if not most of his films are seen through a female sensibility, if not only through a female character.
My first 360 happened in a movie with Fassbinder called Martha, and I remember it quite clearly. It was a scene where the two actors who played the lead in it, and they had a love relationship, met the first time. And Reiner wanted that this is a moment in the movie that everybody remembers, in the audience, that this is a very important moment. So we thought about it, how to make that very visible, that these people are in a way connected. So I suggested maybe we could do like half a circle around them and they go into the circle and look at each other. And he looked at me and said, why not all the way around? I said, okay, and again, it's difficult, but it's beautiful. The problem was that this courtyard where we shot it in Rome was on a slope, and if you do a 360, the track has to be leveled. So in order to level it, there was on the one end, the actors had to make a step that was about a foot or a foot and a half high. And I thought that wouldn't be possible, but Reiner made them do it, and they did it. So we went all the way around, and on top of it, he had the actors turn around each other one more time. So it became a very famous shot that everybody remembers. And because we liked it so much, then we used it a lot later.
Michael, geh doch mal um mich herum wie die 360er. Als ob du ja, ganz toll. Super. Fantastic.
No, that's easy with a camera like that, because if you have to look through, it's a different story. My working together with Fassbinder for 9 years, and we did 16 movies together, was an important input on my career. Not only that I learned a lot from him in the work process, but also his work, his movies were known in the States. So when I started working here, and they mentioned this is Ballhaus who worked with Fassbinder, said, oh yeah, they know, I mean, all the people in the industry have seen a lot of Fassbinder films. Marty Scorsese is one of the most important directors for me in Hollywood. And he has something that is similar to Fassbinder. He has also a very precise idea how a movie should look. He has images in his head, like Reiner did. And that makes it so wonderful for me to work with him. First of all, to have a director who has great imagination of images. And the other is that if you are so much in sync with the director, he feels the same way about shots, about how to photograph a scene, that he likes to move the camera as I do, and as Reiner did. So all these things are very similar to what I experienced way back with Reiner. And I enjoy it so much because it's kind of a continuation of a work relationship that I had with Reiner in all these years.
Hello? Could I talk to Mr. Andy Warhol?
In 1977, I was at the Chicago Film Festival. It was my first time in America. I'd never been to America before. And we were showing Adolf and Marlene, and it was very successful. And at the last day of the festival, an American distributor comes and says, we want to buy the movie and we want to introduce you to Andy Warhol.
Yeah, I want to talk to Mr. Warhol, Andy Warhol.
So they took me to New York. They screened the movie. They also screened Tenderness of the Wolves. And Andy loved both movies. And he said to me at dinner, he said, so what's your next project? And somehow something told me that he might be interested in producing a movie with me. So I invented a story that could take place in New York. And at the end of my presenting the story to him, he says, I like that. Couldn't we shoot that in New York? Needless to say, 3 months later, we shot this movie in New York.
I'd like to know what you think about the sentence of Godard, who says that cinema is a place for crime and magic.
Well, I still don't understand the crime part of the question, but I always think about the magic part of the question is when it really shows magic, you know, and when, especially of people. Some people have that magic that when a camera goes on you, that there's an extra energy or something, you know, for some people. It's, you know, beautiful people, it makes such a difference when they can get that extra magic on the screen. I don't understand it, but it happens. Can I take a photograph of you?
You can do it.
And he liked Blank Generation and Experience a lot, and we had a great time together. And he really got so many things going for me in New York and later in Hollywood that without Andy, I would have never gotten to Hollywood. And of course, without Rainer, I would have never gotten to New York, to Andy. So it are these two stations that were like pivotal in my life.
Während der Drehzeit von Boogeyman fing es plötzlich an zu schneien in Maryland, an der East Coast, wo wir den Film gedreht hatten. Und es schneite zum ersten Mal in 150 Jahren im Oktober. Und daraufhin haben sich meine Frau und ich entschlossen, mit dem Auto an die Westküste zu fahren, um den Film hier fertig zu machen. Natürlich die meisten amerikanischen Horrorfilme sind reine Exploitation-Filme. Aber mein persönlicher Grund mehr oder weniger war, dass ich unbedingt einen kommerziellen Film machen wollte. Hier hatte ein Kritiker in der Washington Post, nannte das Overheated Teutonic Imagination, den Boogeyman.
I grew up, like many of us, of the new German cinema with American cinema. My heroes were Anthony Mann, Nicholas Ray, Sam Fuller, Fritz Lang, and John Ford. And they had all basically made their best work here in Hollywood, inside the studio system actually. So when I came here in '78, hired by a studio, I figured that if these guys had been able to do this great work here, why shouldn't this be possible anymore?
Sowohl der Coppola als auch ich haben das erst im Laufe der Zeit gemerkt. Da sind zwei so verschiedene Systeme aufeinander geprallt. Und ich wollte keinen Schritt zurück und von meiner Position eines unabhängigen Regisseurs nicht runter. Und Francis wollte ein Produzent sein, wie es ihm vorgeschwebt hat. Und es sind zwei so verschiedene Systeme, dieses amerikanische Studiosystem und der europäische Autorenfilm. Und ich wollte auf der anderen Seite, ich meine, ich bin hingegangen und ich wollte gar kein Autor sein. Ich wollte so arbeiten wie die Regisseure, die in 30 und 40 Jahren nach Hollywood gegangen sind. Ich wollte ein angestellter Regisseur sein.
Maybe that was a little naive on my behalf. Anyway, my encounter with the studio system was pretty disastrous.
Werden Sie hier bleiben und weiter hier arbeiten?
Also, Bibi, ich glaube schon, ja. Es sei denn, ich mache hier einen Film nach dem anderen jetzt, der kein Erfolg wird, dann wird es mir wohl nicht mehr so gefallen.
Und dann bin ich nochmal nach Paris zurückgegangen und traf Fassbinder in einem Café. Und er sagte, ja, wie ist es da in Amerika? Mal sehen. Er sagte, ja, also denk halt dran, die Amerikaner, die begeistern sich sehr schnell für alles, aber die lassen dich auch genauso schnell wieder fallen. Und dann sagte er, was mich am meisten bedrückt im Moment, ist, dass mich zu viele Leute zu toll finden. Er sagt, früher am Anfang war ich so umstritten. Das hat mir immer unheimlich viel Spaß gemacht. Aber jetzt die ganze Weltpresse, die New York Times hat jetzt gesagt, ich sei der tollste Regisseur der letzten 50 Jahre. Sagt er, das hält man ja nicht aus. Wo soll ich denn hin von hier?
On April 14th, 1980, which is the year that Volker Schlöndorff's The Tin Drum was nominated for an Oscar, Fassbinder was in Los Angeles on the day of the Academy Awards ceremony, but that wasn't the reason for his visit. He came to Hollywood to find actors for his next feature film, Lily Marlene, which he planned to shoot with an international cast.
And the winner is the Federal Republic of Germany for The Tin Drum.
Ich erinnere mich, dass ich Rainer Werner bei den Oscars 1980 hier in Los Angeles wieder getroffen habe. Ganz unerwarteter Anblick, auch mit seiner Fliege und dem Frack und allem drum und dran. So habe ich ihn wirklich noch nie gesehen. Es stand ihm auch irgendwie nicht so richtig. Und er hatte irgendwie gehört, dass ich Ärger hatte mit dem Coppola, mit meinem Film. Und wir standen da so auf der Empore und haben so auf dieses ganze Hollywood-Treiben da runtergeguckt. Und da hat er so mit den Armen auf die Schulter gelegt und gesagt, Wim, ich weiß ja, dass du ja richtig Ärger hast. Wenn du meinst, das könnten wir regeln, indem ich den Coppola mal so richtig verprügel, musst du mir sagen, zeig mir den mal, wo der ist. Der hätte das auch gemacht. Ich habe natürlich mein Bestes getan, um ihn nicht zum Coppola hinzuführen, aber er hätte ihm richtig voll einen auf die Nase gehauen, glaube ich. Irgendwie war er gerade so in der Stimmung und das Ganze da, was da so vor ihm ablief, diese Oscars, das war so überhaupt nicht sein Bier. Also eigentlich, glaube ich, suchte er auch irgendwie einen Konfliktpunkt, an dem er seine Position zu dieser ganzen Welt klar machen konnte. Und in dem Moment wäre das eine Prügelei mit dem Coppola gewesen.
I think that Fassbinder's interest in American films would have led him to work in America. He kept a flat in New York. He maintained that he wanted to make films in America, and even the films he was making in Germany became, in a way, more and more international in his last years. Lily Marlene, Carell, they got bigger, glossier, used international actors.
Dass wir bei Lily Marlene schon auf Englisch gedreht haben, war eigentlich schon in der Erwartung, es wird ein Welterfolg. Und es war, glaube ich, auch der Film, der am meisten gespielt wurde, seiner Filme überall, mit dem er wirklich dann Publikumsschichten erreicht hat, die vorher in seine Filme nicht reingingen.
Deine Schritte kennt sie, deinen schönen Namen. Allabend brennt sie, doch mich vergaß sie. Und sollte mir ein Leid geschehen, wer wird bei der Laterne stehen? Mit ihr, Lili Marlene, mit ihr, Lili Marlene.
War das eigentlich schon immer Ihr Ziel, einmal mit so viel Geld einen Film zu machen? Sie haben ja sehr viele Filme gemacht, die sehr, sehr viel billiger waren.
Jetzt nie was ausgemacht, mehr oder weniger Geld zu drehen. Ich habe halt versucht, für die Stoffe, die ich gehabt habe, jeweils das richtige Budget zu haben.
Jetzt haben Sie einen so großen Film gemacht bei uns und haben Sie eigentlich einen Traum? Würden Sie auch gerne nach Hollywood gehen?
Nicht auf Teufel komm raus. Ich kann auch da noch mal sagen, ich möchte gerne in Amerika leben und wenn ich da eine Zeit lang gelebt habe, werde ich da sicherlich auch Filme machen.
And I think that's also what was leading him towards America, is he felt the German system was becoming far too restrictive because of the government censorship, or at least oversight of the films, that he really wasn't free to make the movies he'd started out making.
Das nächste Mal, dass wir uns gesehen haben, war in Cannes. Da hat er nochmal vor der Kamera gestanden, habe ich dann einen Dokumentarfilm gemacht, Zimmer 666, wo alle möglichen Regisseure über die Zukunft des Kinos geredet haben, und auch Rainer Werner ist in diese Folterkammer reingekommen und hat da sehr bewegend vor der Kamera geredet.
Es werden weniger Filme gemacht, das ist richtig.
Es polarisiert sich ein bestimmtes Kino tatsächlich zu einem Sensationskino, das irgendwie bombastisch, großartig und so ist. Das ist allenthalben zu sehen. Auf der anderen Seite, wie gesagt, gibt es doch das ganz individuelle oder auch ganz nationale Kino Einzelner, das heute schon wichtiger ist als eben das Kino, das sich vom Fernsehen nicht mehr unterscheidet.
Hat diesen Film natürlich dann nie mehr sehen können, weil als er dann fertig war, war Rainer Werner schon tot. Und für mich ist eigentlich der Film auch nur deswegen irgendwie relevant, weil es so, ja, so vielleicht für mich auch zum ersten Mal physisch so handgreiflich und erlebbar war, dass Film uns wirklich alle überlebt und dass alles, was wir belichten, uns wirklich allesamt überlebt. Und dass wirklich jeder Film, egal was man dreht, ganz existenziell von Leben und Tod handelt. Selbst so ein blöder Interviewfilm.
One of the reasons why he had to work day and night and never go to sleep. He was afraid when he would sleep, he would die. And the incredible thing is, of course, that happened. He fell asleep in his apartment in June 1982 and he died. So he was right never to go asleep because death would sneak up on him. Death would beat him while he was asleep.
Douglas Sirk wrote in Fassbinder's obituary, "Today I have lost a good friend, in Germany a genius. I would never have thought that the evil day would arrive when I, so much older, would be writing these words of mourning." Fassbinder has left an amazing oeuvre of more than 40 films, as magnificent in their form as in their theme. Fassbinder's films were for a long time controversial, and hopefully will stay that way, for only those things that can survive opposition have the power of permanence.
It's not easy to speculate on what would have happened if Rainer would have lived longer, if he would have gone to the States, if he would have gone to Hollywood and work here. There was always the dream that we would work here, and he had an agent here, but I wasn't so sure. Definitely he would have had to change his working attitude, because we all know that he was a very strong leader, and the way people work in the States, it's different. It's very different from the way we worked in Germany. So I thought maybe he would have done a movie or two, but I think he would always would go back to Germany.
Hätte sich selber nie so weit, glaube ich, diszipliniert oder verleugnet oder auf den Erfolg hin getrimmt, dass Hollywood wirklich voll bedient hätte.
I think Fassbinder would have been really, really disappointed. I don't think here you have the freedom to do really truly what you want. I think there's always someone with big money behind you who tell you what to do. And even if you try to be very truthful to you, I don't think it's possible in Hollywood, except now with the independent film. But then I don't think it's possible to do really, really the kind of film he wanted to do in Hollywood. He might have done a film, yes, of course, but would have been a Fassbinder film? I don't think so.
I think in March of 1980, Fassbinder was ready to make the move, and I think he would have shaken things up, because he didn't accept the Hollywood way of looking at the truth. He didn't accept that there were heroes and villains the way Hollywood wants to see them.
Ich bin manchmal richtig sauer gewesen. Ich habe manchmal richtig geflucht und ihn nachträglich beschimpft, dass er so in seinen Tod sich irgendwie ja doch mit offenem Auge hineingearbeitet hat. Und manchmal habe ich richtig so gesagt, scheiße, wirklich scheiße. Das wäre nicht nötig gewesen. Aber es ist natürlich Käse, das so im Nachhinein zu sagen.
Our love is that, my friend. Our war has now an end. Our film was torn, my friend, and hope was born again. So much tenderness is in